No GPS, no rules, no shame. Just a funky little quad in a soul train frame. We fly that flow. Spread that gap. No time to nap. No time to nap. Hit that road. Funk and control. Bounce that wall. We fly it all. We fly it all. Funky and free, we fly indoors, we fly with glee. Whoop it, loop it, groove it, move it, bounce it, flip it, funk it, rip it, fly that soul, don't lose control. Tiny whoop love gonna make you whole. I thread the needle through the vinyl stacks, bounce off the mirror ball, never looking back. My quad's got soul, it's got style, it's got sass. It dips through the incense like a blast from the past. I'm flying figure eights through the lava lamp glow, dodging house plants like a funky pro. My whoop's got rhythm, my sticks got heat. I'm the pilot of the party with the grooviest beat. I loop through the hallway, I dive by the broom. I'm the disco ghost in your living room. I hit that split that's over grandma's chair. She just claps and says, boy, you got flair. I'm flying freestyle with a velvet touch. My quad so smooth it don't need a clutch. From the shag rug to the ceiling fan, I'm the funky little fly with a master plan. The curtains dancing on the breeze, freestyle funk in my living room with ease. Tiny whoop magic bumping every wall. I'm the James Brown of flight, can't stop at all.
Greetings! My name's Aaron Ciotti. Everybody calls me Ciotti. Welcome to Cinewhoop Wednesday. Jesus, I'm hitting all the wrong buttons. There we go. Yeah. It's time. It's that time. We gotta dive back into this Cinewhoop V2 build. I'd started working on it on a live stream a while ago, and then I already had my Cinewhoop V1s that were running, so this was just being built as like an extra, and then a bunch of stuff came up and I stopped building it, and it's been sitting, but my main Cinewhoop that I've been running for over 3 years now, that's been to pretty much every single professional gig that I've done, so probably over 1,000 batteries through it at this point. Just caught on fire for no reason whatsoever before the track day gig last week. I put a battery onto it just to spin it up and make sure everything was okay, and the second that I plugged the battery in, one of the motors caught fire, and I don't know if the ESC shit the bed and it took the motor with it, or if the motor shit the bed and took the ESC with it. Doesn't really matter. They both blew up. And so, what a perfect excuse to get this thing going. And so, I'm going to pull the... I already had a stack for this, the T-Motor 20x20 stack. But I am going to pull the video system out of that, the receiver out of it, and I am going to use fresh motors, though. I have fresh motors all ready to go on here, so might as well use them. And yeah, I'll have a main digital Cinewhoop again. I've got this one here, which is pretty much a carbon copy, but with analog. I always like to have a full analog setup in case it's a scenario where analog makes more sense than digital. And so, like, that's these two guys. These are the two analog cinematic rigs. A glide with dead cat arms, so I can run really low camera angle with no props in view. Typical glide setup for me, T-Motor F40 Pro 4s, which are 2306s. And then, Cinesplorer V1 with really tall ducts on it. That setup has the Cloud 149 ducts on it. Being analog, it's a little bit lighter. The motors are a little bit smaller than these. These are 2104s from FPV Cycle and like a custom KV that he made for me. That is on Axis 2004s. So tiny bit smaller motor. Difference between 2104 and 2004 is pretty much nothing though. But yeah, a little bit lighter, taller ducts, super slow, super accurate, like infinitely accurate. Yeah, so that's the plan for tonight. My friends, Etsy continues to not send me any notifications whatsoever, and so a bunch of orders were apparently sitting there, and I had no idea. And so I realized that about an hour ago, and I've been panic packing and shipping them ever since then. I've only got 3 left, but and so the 3D printer is running right now. It will stop pretty shortly. It's got it's almost done with the second to last propodial. So it's going to finish printing this propodial. It's going to print one more, and then it'll play the song of some of our people. And you won't have the fan noise in the background anymore. My BT 3.0 to XT30 connectors turned out pretty good. I ended up using epoxy in between the plugs, and it's good. It's the epoxy is very strong. It accomplished exactly what I was looking for. What I did, okay, so if you're gonna make one of these little adapters, well, you're gonna end up making 2. You're gonna make either, the male and female on the XT30, and make goddamn sure that you hook them up to the proper male or female on the BT 3.0 end, right? So you want male to you want a male and a female, and then you want a female and a male, right? Otherwise, you won't be able to use the damn things. And so on the XT30 connectors, the exposed lead that you solder to, it's got a pocket, a hole, a circle with a hole in the middle, and then it's kind of like that. It's like this shape. It's like a half circle raised. And so what you normally do is you put the bare wires in through this part of it, and then the silicone butts up against here. So the bare wires go down there, and then you put a bunch of solder in there, and it closes the whole thing up. Those pins, so the 2 pins on the XT30 kind of look like this. Usually they're out. They're outwards like this. You can spin them. You can spin them to be in. Don't. Leave them out like this. And then on the XT30, it's got a round post that they've cut half of it away. So instead of being like this, like the XT30, it's kind of like that, where it's a round pin that they cut right down the middle and then notched out. So they removed like half of it. And those are going to be inwards. You're going to rotate those outwards on the BT 3.0. And then what's going to happen is the pocket, like each pocket on the XT30 like this, is going to almost perfectly line up with the rounded outer part of the BT 3.0 on one side and on the other side. And then you can run one big blob of solder around the whole thing. They come really close to each other. It's super strong. It really works well. And that's probably strong enough, but I was thinking about like squirting some E6000 in between, but E6000 is kind of soft and squishy. And so I opted for epoxy. And what I was going to do is wait for the epoxy to almost harden and then try to glomp it in here and hope that it didn't like leak out or run all over the place. I didn't end up doing that. What I did is I cut little strips of masking tape, and I basically took a tiny little strip of masking tape that was probably about this long, and I put it against here, and then I wrapped it around the sides, and then I put it up like this. So I made like a little canoe, I guess, out of the masking tape. It was basically like this. It was holding it like that. And then so that let me drip the epoxy in there, and then the epoxy spread itself out and made, and I didn't use quite enough epoxy. If I did it again, I would use a little bit more. But like I said, just the metal parts worked so well that I don't even think I needed to do the epoxy, but I did, and I'm sure that it made it a little bit stronger. And so these are the tops. And so you can see there's a little bit of a cavity in there, but if I flip it over, you can see that, you know, that's that texture of the masking tape. And so the one side is, and so what I could do, I could mix up another little batch of epoxy and just drip another bit of it on here. Right now I have like a little cave in there. I could drip a little bit more epoxy on there, but I'm probably not gonna, because this is fine. And so, yeah, that's what I did. And it worked staggeringly well. There was a little bit of like overflow on the epoxy, and I just went in there. I was able to cut it right off. And yeah, good to go. These will come in handy at some point. Super nice to have. Make yourself some. Let us know how it goes. Okay, so I did another 3-4-ish hours of prop testing today on the now disassembled sub 250G FPV Turtle 2.5 Pro or HD. Pro or HD. Unfortunately, you can't get that frame anymore. I still haven't heard back from some sub 250G. When I do hear back from, we were talking about a bunch of other stuff. When I do hear back from, I'm going to ask him if he ever plans on putting those back in stock over on CNC Drones, or if he just doesn't want to sell them anymore. At the moment, all you can buy are the Bando Turtles, which are apparently pretty good. And I am going to be using my 2.5-inch Bando Turtle frame in a little bit, maybe Friday, maybe this weekend. So I did a whole bunch of testing on that frame with different motors. I put the Gep RC 1202.5 10,000s on there in place of the Happy Model 1202.5 10,500s. And the Geps are better balanced. The Gep RC motors are definitely better balanced. It doesn't look like they make much, if any. Oh God, sorry. Extra power though, but that's fine. These make enough power as it is. And yeah, ran them on a whole bunch of different props. That's what you were watching at the beginning of the live stream. Could anybody tell a difference between the first flight file that I played and the second flight file that I played? They were on different props. Very different props. Could anybody tell anything different between sort of like the flight characteristics between those two? Probably not. I could obviously feel a difference, but I wouldn't think that it could. I wouldn't think that it's drastic enough to see, and or you guys weren't really looking for it. But just in case anybody saw something weird, I'm super interested. While I'm waiting, Matthew Wegner was first in the chat. J Tux was next. Capital C, Sear FPV, Fleemo Fly, The Bruce B. Kirk, Render, Douglas 6, Fizz, Uriel, Level Up, Frank Dr. Nicholas, Nathan Wells, J Tux, Render, Uriel, Mo Penguins, Nyafu. Nyafu flew to fucking Mount Fuji. So cool. By the way, everybody, Nyafu is female. Just so you know. I know that FPV is 99.9% men, but there are a couple of very cool females. And Nyafu is one of them. I wonder if Nyafu in Japanese or I'm assuming Nyafu's in Japan because Mount Fuji is in Japan. I wonder if Nyafu in Japan in Japanese it has like a female connotation to it. Us cheeseburger people have no idea. And so, you know, if we see a pilot whose name is not like Pretty Pink Teddy Bear FPV, none of us ever think that it's that they're talking to a female. So, doubles, Uriel, Fizz, just on task rather. Seer again, Sporny, Fizz, Mo Penguins, Frank Dr. Nicholas, Fizz PV. Haven't seen you in a minute, Fizz. How you been? Jimmy the Cow, mooing away. J Tux again, Jimmy the Cow again. Did I get everybody? Holy shit, Craig is here. The holy shit was because I was yawning, not because Craig is here. Fleemo, Bernard Fox is here as well. I think I got everybody. What's up, friends? If you want to talk directly to me, type at CiottiFPV. Uriel says, oh my god, hello peeps, and CiottiFPV, I should go to bed. Mo Penguin says, hey CiottiFPV and crew. Look at this. Again, I'm remembering before my alarm goes off to go over to Instagram and be a good live streamer and tell people from Instagram. Goddamn bastard. And tell people from Instagram to come watch my live stream for the next 2 hours, where we're going to be working on the Cinesplorer V2, and the 3D printer is banging away for the next God knows how long, making propodiles that I send out in every single package that I ship. That's Etsy orders and giveaways. First Monday of every month, I do giveaways. So yeah, come on over to YouTube and watch. Look at me! I can do things. I'm not the worst in the world. And the 3D printer is banging away for the next God knows how long, making link. I ship. Nope.com/CiottiFPV. So yeah, come on over to YouTube and watch. And tell people from Instagram to come watch my live stream for the next 2 hours, where we're going to be working on. There we go. I did it. I did a thing. Look how good I am. Worst. All right, I gotta leave that open. So did a bunch of testing. Tested all of the main. I tested 4 of the. Ooh. Let me scroll to the bottom and see if anybody noticed anything. Okay, nobody noticed anything. Not surprising. So the 4 props that I tested today on the GetBar C1202.5s on the Sub 250G 2.5 inch. It's basically the 2.5 inch exact copy of the baby turtle that I've done most of the 04 Lite flying on. All the flying from Portland, pretty much all of the HD open prop stuff that you've seen from me has been on that turtle over the last few months. The 2.5 inch frame is the exact same thing as that. And so I've now tested 3 different motors on it, like 6 different propellers on it. And the props that rose to the top are the GemFan 2512s, 2520s, and then the HQT 2.5 by 1.9 by 3s. All of these motors that I've tested on that are too small for those propellers. The response time was not great. But right now, I'm trying to iron out 2-inch versus 2.5-inch in terms of how do we get footage that we can run through GyroFlow out of these open prop setups without having to do crazy soft mounting on the cameras. And so I wanted to keep the motors exactly the same between these two builds, but I'm actually curious if that is a part of the reason that so far the 2.5-inch build has been worse. I'm thinking that maybe I know for a fact that having motors that are too small for the size of the propeller kills the response time, and then it struggles to eat prop wash. It struggles to just perform properly. The PID loop, you can push the PID loop really hard if you have too small of a motor and too heavy of a prop for it. But it'll never be as good as having a properly sized motor for the weight and amount of drag that the propeller that you're running has. And these 1202.5s, the 1103s, the other 1202.5s, they're not it. Those are motors for 2-inch props. 2.5-inch props need at least a 1203, probably a 1204 or a 1303. And so we are going to get there. But in the interim, I've gone back to 2-inch. This is the Max Frames M2 that has been set up and will be set up again as an analog rig. This is the build that I crashed into the magnetic dust at Sloss, and all 4 motors got jammed up. They're actually the HDLRC motors. They're up here. These are the GEP motors on here now. But yeah, all 4 of the HDLRC 1202.5s got jammed up. I pulled 2 of the bells off. I cleaned them out with Funtac. I actually used the thermal putty, the electronic goop thermally resistive putty, which has like the same sort of consistency and stickiness as Funtac, but it doesn't melt and make such a mess like Funtac. And so I used that on 2 of the motors and it worked great. I've used Funtac a million times. It's kind of annoying on tiny little motors because like you gotta like make it into a little tube like this, and then you gotta like wrap it around the motor, and sometimes it's kind of annoying to get off. Sometimes there's a little bit of residue, but it's fine. Totally works. It's how you should clean out your motors. I remember I'd seen someone use a hot glue gun to clean motors, and so I figured, what the hell, I'll try that. And so I tried the hot glue gun on 2 of the other bells, and I tried it. I did 1 bell, and it was fine. And then, but it didn't. But I wanted to try, like, I just got carried away, and I ruined 2 of the motor bells with the hot glue. So like, if you're gonna use a hot glue gun to clean your motors, I don't think you should clean tiny little motors with it. I think you should stick to like big 5-inch motors if you're going to use that trick. But to be honest, I'll never do it again. I'll never use hot glue to clean motors out again. The Funtac totally works. The end. That's it. The Funtac works. So just use the Funtac. You won't ruin a set of motors. Thank God I was able to find 2 of these HDLRC motors in stock because they're like out of stock everywhere. And so, yeah, just use Funtac. You're just going to take Funtac and you just... Good Lord, that pulled a lot of shit out of there already. You take the Funtac, you fold it, squish it, fold it, squish it, fold it, squish it, so that it's nice and clean, and it becomes like a little bit more malleable when you do this. And then you just take it and you push it in there against the magnets. And you just work it around, keep pushing, and then you'll see. It'll pull a bunch of shit off, and then fold it, squish it, fold it, squish it, fold it, squish it. And it totally works. There's no reason to risk it using hot glue. That's silly. Learn from my mistakes, friends. Or just make the mistakes yourself. It's all the same. If you make the mistakes yourself, you'll definitely remember. If you learn from my mistakes, you'll eventually forget, and then you'll make the mistake yourself, and then you'll remember. Mo Penguin says, hey, CiottiFPV and crew. FizzPV says, get that hole in the stucco fixed. If it's a squirrel, they will hollow out all the foam behind it. Just fixed a couple weeks ago on a house. So those holes are fucking woodpeckers. And you can see there's a bunch of spots where it's been repaired before. So yeah, we got to figure something out. Unfortunately, they're just going to come right back. And so, yeah, I don't know. But we do need to fix those. That's fucking annoying. Frank Dr. Nicholas says, face lighting bright / washed out or white balance off. Shouldn't be. Looks the same to me, isn't it? Was it just messed up a little bit ago? Jimmy the Cow says, moo. Let me turn the 3D printer off. It has finished. Well, all right. So the other fan noise that you've got that you might be hearing is the filament dryer. That's going to turn off shortly too. I have that on a 5-hour timer, and so that'll turn off in a second. Looks like it's 36C in there. That's not too bad. Yeah, I ran out of Propodials and had to print a bunch more. But now I've got 2 extras, and after the live stream, I'll fire it up and make 6 more, so that I can include these, as always, in every single order that I ship out. So yeah, those are the things that I put in front of me to remind myself. CiottiFPV.com is where you can go to support me. Patreon is the best way to do that. You can jump on there for as little as $3 a month. That's like 10 cents a live stream or 20 cents a live stream or something like that. It's like nothing. It is the only way that I can continue to do this full time. As the economy crashes and burns, it gets harder and harder to do this. You know, people that are doing cool shit get hammered the worst. And so if you have an extra couple of bucks, it sure would mean a lot if you jump onto the Patreon. There's also a lot of benefits. You're going to get full access to my Discord. You're going to get a private YouTube playlist with... It's now over. I looked last night. It's over 100. There's over 130 half-done edits, just stuff that I don't like, sketchy kind of flying that I don't want to be public. Patreon only live streams. There's some sim racing content in there. There's some really cool stuff over there. So you get that for being a patron. My Patreon itself has a whole bunch of like tech articles and really cool stuff. You're gonna get emails every single time I live stream, if that makes it easier for you. Yeah, lots and lots of cool stuff going on, lots of benefits. If you want to get automatically entered into giveaways, it's only $2 extra. $5 a month will enter you into a Cinewhoop and toothpick giveaway every single first Monday of the month. You don't have to be on the live stream. You'll just get a package someday with like $50+ worth of Cinewhoop toothpick parts in it. And that'll help cover the extra $2, right? That's a lot of extra $2. $2 extra. You know what I'm saying. Nyafu says, will this fly just look 5-inch? Nope. Uriel says, it's true. By AI, you're the best. You will go spiral viral. Test yourself. Did you check your track and trace? You know, I did not. When did that? When did you email that to me? Do you happen to have it? My email is an absolute nightmare. Oh my god, yeah. What the hell, dude? I just got this under control the other day, and now there's 198 unread messages in it. Yeah, do you happen to know what date you sent that, brother? Sporny says, I'm looking for a light or toothpick frame to swap the components out of my 6S Baby Ape 3.5-inch. Fitting frame, True RC 35 might be too thin for 6S. Why is that on 6S? That's absurd. I don't know any of the toothpick frames. In terms of 3.5-inch frames, the only ones that I know of are kind of beefy and heavy. The Siren from Quadmilla is the next one that you're gonna see here on the channel. I have one that I'm gonna. They very kindly sent me one that I've taken absolutely forever to build because I'm a bad person. And then there's of course the Grinder Reno. There's a Volador 3.5. Yeah, I don't know of any lightweight 3.5-inch frames. I would not do a lightweight 3.5-inch though. It's gonna fly like a toothpick. By the fact that you asked for a toothpick frame, I guess that's what you're going for. Sub 250G, yeah, Sub 250G FPV has a 3.5-inch. He might have pulled it down. Let's see. He did. Yeah, he used to have like 20 different frames on here, and one of them was a 3.5-inch frame. I don't know what happened. He's changed. Oh, here's the V7. But I don't think you can run. I don't think you can run the 04 Lite in this V7. I think the Baby Turtle V7 is specifically for analog. That's the one that I have over there. Yeah. Now you can't run. The standoffs are too close together on this V7 for the 04 Lite. So yeah, he pulled down. He had a Baby Turtle Pro, which is this one over here, and now he's just doing the bandos. 2-inch, 2.5-inch, and then the replacement parts. So yeah, I don't know of any lightweight 3.5-inch frames, dude. Sorry. Craig says, love it, cheeseburger people. Oh well, that's us, man. Bernard Fox put a comma after CiottiFPV, so it didn't light up in orange, but I did just happen to see it, which is awesome. Bernard says, is using the conductivity solution for the battery connections a waste? Yes. I use it on motor connectors and packs. Just wondering. Packs as in batteries? Yes. The Stabilant 22, which is electrical contact enhancer, which when I did some testing a few weeks ago, gave between 4 and 6% extra efficiency and power by just very quickly and very easily putting it onto your motor plugs on a Cinewhoop. It has a life cycle of like 2 or 3 plug and unplug cycles. So on motor plugs, it's perfect because we don't plug and unplug motors very often at all, right? On a battery connector, though, you're gonna get the benefit from it for like 1 day, and then it's gonna rub completely off. Basically, what this stuff is that if you look at metal under a microscope, it's not completely smooth. It's got little pits and valleys, and so every single time you plug something in, it's like a metal, penis and a metal vagina that mate together. And when you put this Stabilant 22 on either side of it, it smooths it out. It's a conductive liquid, and so you put it on there. It dries really quick because I've cut it. You have to cut it with 99% isopropyl, and so it's super easy to apply. You put it on there, it dries right away, and then it makes a super smooth coating. Very similar to the reason we use thermal paste, right? We use thermal paste because the top of the CPU or whatever the hell it is not perfectly flat. You put the thermal paste on there, it's perfectly flat. It transmits transmits heat, and you get more contact area. You get a better contact patch between the two substances. The Stabilant 22 works exactly the same. Over on my Etsy store, which is linked on CiottiFPV.com, you can buy these little vials of it that have 0.5 ml. for like $15, I think. Half a mil doesn't sound like a lot, but you literally use one drop of this at a time. You put one drop. Well, for me, because I dispense it out of this little bottle that's got this little tip on it. I take just a piece of plastic out of the garbage, like a little plastic bag, for example. I put it on the table. I drop literally one single drop on there. And then the way that I've been applying it, I'm back to the fine tipped tweezers for applying it. Piece of plastic, one little drop of the liquid. I take the fine tipped tweezers and I just put the tips down into the liquid, and I just close the tips a couple times, and then it like the capillary action coats the entire front of these with it. And then I actually just did it on this board because I do it pretty much every time that I unplug a set of motors because the pins are right there and it takes no time. And so I just dip it into the liquid, and then I just go to the little motor pins on the flight controller side, and I just whoop, whoop, whoop. Like if the motor pin is like this, I just go like that to the motor pin and just wipe up and down. And I can literally see that a little bit of the liquids are getting on there. And I just go 1, 2, 3 motor pins. I go back down into the single drop, get the tips of the tweezers wet again. Boop, boop, boop. Boop, boop, boop. It takes 2.5 minutes. And you get a little bit of a benefit from it. And so that's Stabilant 22, or electrical contact enhancer. And yeah, on their website, they talk about the life cycle of it. And they say, I think they say 2 to 4 plug and unplug cycles. So yeah, using it on battery connectors, while it will work for 1 or 2 batteries, it'll then kind of wear off. I guess you could focus on putting it on all of your battery. Like, I would definitely not put it on the quad side connector because that's getting unplugged and plugged a million times. I would put it on all the battery connectors. So sit there, line up, if you're going to do it, line up all your batteries and put it on all the battery connectors, and then at least you'll get like 4 cycles out of each battery with it. So yeah, FizzPV says busy, lol. It's a good problem to have. Nyafu says, my name comes from the sound a cat makes, nya, which can also be used as a suffix to sound like a silly goose. That's awesome. See cat-like characters in anime and manga. Yeah, you know, it's funny. I didn't make the connection between Nyan Cat and Nyafu. And then she says, the foo, I don't remember. Fair enough. Also says, yes, I'm in Japan. LOL, going to fly to Fuji again because I just got my sub 400cc bike license. Nice. This time I want to go lower and explore the peak more. Wish me luck because it's super illegal. I mean, how would they ever catch you? Uriel says, hold on. Scrolling back up to try to find my place because YouTube doesn't know how to make a fucking live stream work properly. There we go. Uriel says, hot go Wii U and a hair farn. Maybe better. FizzPV says HardyBacker. What about it? HardyBacker is what you use in the shower to adhere tiles to. What's that have to do with... Oh, what's that saying? What's that have to do with the price of beans? That's an old school saying. Off Axis with a 10 Canadian Californian dollar super chat. Thank you, brother. He says, I keep hearing your name on the Quadverse podcast on Spotify. No shit. Keep up the good work and fun times you give to all of us. I'm proud to be here and support you, Rock Brother. Thank you so much, man. Super kind of you to say all that. That's awesome. I was listening to, so one of the ways that I actually managed to fall asleep, because I have horrible issues falling asleep, is by listening to podcasts. And maybe like 6 months ago, I have a lot of different... I tend to gravitate towards mental health podcasts just to try and survive. And so like a lot of Healthy Gamer and stuff like that. But Healthy Gamer will take breaks in their podcasts. And on one of those breaks, I jumped into the Quadverse podcast and I got totally caught up. Yeah, this was towards the end of the year last year, so I guess it was a little bit more than 6 months ago. But I got all caught up on Quadverse, and then I started listening to Cream podcast, which is crc.r.e.a.m, which stands for Cars Rule Everything Around Me. This is the podcast of Edwin and Will, who have one of my favorite YouTube channels right now called Top Dead Center. And then their second channel is Two Dead Center. Edwin and Will are two really funny British car content creators who know way too much about cars, much like myself. And they were with Auto Alex before. I'm sorry, they were with Car Throttle before Car Throttle disbanded. And they're really good friends with Auto Alex and Taylor Hetherington, and that whole crew, who I watch as well. But Top Dead Center those guys are just awesome. They're a little bit nerdier than the Auto Alex guys. There's more like super deep car cuts that make me giggle, like 99.9% of people don't understand because it's just so absolutely in the weeds. But yeah, it's my absolute favorite. They're also just hysterical. And they typically buy shit boxes and then either fix them up or tune them up and then do something funny with them and then move on to the next. And it's just really, really good stuff. And yeah, Cream is their podcast. And they call all of their listeners creamers. And and like now that and they're pretty popular. I think their YouTube channel is at maybe like 500,000. I think it might be over 500,000 subs. Very popular YouTube channel. For good reason. They're hysterical and they work their fucking asses off. Holy shit. And like the podcast has gotten popular enough where like they almost can't go out in public without somebody screaming some obscene thing related to Cream. And just hearing them like tell these stories of how embarrassing it was to go to the gas station and have somebody scream across the gas station, "Yo, I'm a creamer!" It's really good. It's really, really good. They're cool guys. And they've been doing weekly podcasts for coming up on like 2 years. So there's a lot. And so, yeah, for the last, like, ever since I got caught up on Quadverse, I started listening to theirs. And I'm getting close to being caught up. And so once I get caught up on their podcast, I'll jump back over to Quadverse. I was surprised to hear so many people mention me on the first bunch of episodes of Quadverse. That's yeah, people had very kind things to say, and that's yeah, super nice. I'm very lucky to have people that I don't know have kind things to say about me. Craig says, "Did you solve your ND filter holder issue?" Not quite yet, but we have some things that a few of us are working on. I'm more focused on trying to get it to work with gyro flow, and the ND filter is not going to do anything about that. And so, like the ND filter thing, we will get figured out. Actually, when there's a file on my Discord in the 3D printing text channel that I need to grab. I'm actually going to grab it right now. So here's one that CiottiFPV did, and then I think there might be another one in here, or that might be the one. Yep, here's the other one. Okay, so I'm going to print both of these out, and yeah, we'll see. We'll see how that... Although, now that I put it... God damn it. I just took it out. Well, I will use. I just took it out of the frame that these would be used on. But this electronics package is going to end up back in the 2-inch baby turtle, more than likely. And so when it's going to go from this frame to the Bando Turtle 2.5-inch frame, and then back to the 2-inch frame. And that's when I'll try this out. I meant to print it out earlier today and put it into this. Although seeing if the ND filter will stay in there properly is going to be fine. So I'll be able to test the ND filter when I print them out tonight. So yeah, I'll be able to see that. This is this is outside of all the gyro flow stuff. Like I want to get. It's important to have with O4 Lite. It's important to have the ability to run an ND filter, because in the middle of the day, you're gonna have jello. I've been shocked at how little jello there is on the 2-inch setup, and on the 2.5-inch setups as well, to be honest. But I've been flying completely clean, brand new motors and completely clean, brand new props. Where the jello issues start to happen is when your motors and props start to get banged up. Since I'm doing this gyro flow, since I'm trying to figure out how to get gyro flow to work on these hard-mounted setups, I've been not flying hard. I've been just flying up and down the street, different throttle values, taking logs, pulling all the flight footage, pulling the goggle footage, looking at the RPMs that they're turning at full tilt. I've had a couple little crashes, but like I'm not flying hard, generating like hard wrecks that actually bang shit up. And so once I do, that's when the jello will begin. But yeah, I've been pretty surprised with how well this is going. Uriel, awesome. Thank you, dude. Post.nl. Here's the code. Oh, Jesus. It's all in another language. Zoken? Is that maybe it? Maybe that'll do it. Post.nl. Bijiv 1000 AA. Oh, boy. I wish I was more global. Where is U in the alphabet? LMNOP, QRS, TU. Where's U? Where's the United States in here? Or does this want the country of origin? I can't get this track and trace to work. Canada's in here, but the US is not in here. I don't blame them. Switzerland is in here. Is it really with a Z? Yeah, I don't know how to do this. I have the code in there, but then it won't let me. Well, what if I put Canada? Canada's pretty close, right? No, it's not working. I can't get it to work, and it's in. Oh, English. Here we go. English. Okay. This is about. Try again. Typo. Postal code recipient. Got it. Okay. And then country of destination. United States of America. There we go. Okay, got it. Please wait. It's across the border. When will it be there? Doesn't say. Last update, 7th of May. Okay, cool. So it looks like it's working its way here. You guys will be excited. Hey, there we go. You guys will be excited when this gets here. parcel has crossed the border May 6th. Delivery time is being calculated. Okay, so they don't know delivery time yet. But it looks like it just crossed the border today. It must have been on the slow boat. Okay. Sporny says, yes, the 6S is absurd. Look at the frames from Quad Mover at the moment. Interesting. I didn't know he had his own frames. Good for him. Why not put it down on the 4S? Because you have to swap the motors. Smile. I'm just going to call you Smile because I don't know how to pronounce the end of that. Says, what's the best 1202.5 motor for 1S to 2S? I'm not even kidding. Whichever one you can find in stock. And then 1S versus 2S is going to be a massive difference in KV. But seriously, like at this point, the best of anything in FPV is whatever you can find in stock because nothing is in stock and it sucks a big bag of donkeys. There really are only a couple places that make these motors, and so like even though you'll see like a 1202 made by Gep RC and RC and Power, HGLRC, Beta FPV, Happy Model, they're all made in like one or two places, so it really doesn't matter. You can buy the motor that's the color that you like the best, and you'll have just as much of a chance at getting the best one, and or you'll get something that's identical because it's being made from the same place as all the others. Brother Hobby as well. And so, yeah, get the ones that you can find in stock. If there's two in stock, get the color that you like the best, and you'll be good to go. What I will say is that it does seem like these Happy Model 1202.5s were less balanced than these Gep RC 1202.5s and probably also the HGLRC. So maybe stay away from the Happy Models. The Happy Model bigger motors like this, namely the 1103s, a lot of people, including myself, have not had great luck with them durability-wise. And so, yeah, it looks like the Happy Model motors might be made of like a lower grade metal or something like that, or it could just be coincidence, but yeah, whatever you can find in stock that's not Happy Model. And to be honest, you'll probably be fine with Happy Model anyway. But if given the choice, maybe stay away from the Happy Model 1202s, 1202.5s. Nyafu says the Happy Model Crux 35. It's probably a good one. Nathan Wells says Quadmula F35 split Tooth Fairy 2. Oh, the Tooth Fairy 2, of course. Oh, and the AOS 3.5. And then the Flyfish is the Volador. Thank you, Nathan Wells. Good call. YouTube, the thing, it is pouring out right now. It's been raining hard. My fucking life flashed before my eyes earlier today. Oh my god, dude. The rain was coming. I went on a walk and the rain was coming. And I've been trying to not just walk, I've been trying to jog to actually get this giant piece of shit body into some semblance of health so that I don't just drop dead. And so I've been trying to kind of jog as much as I can on these walks around my neighborhood. The neighborhood here is extremely hilly. The whole neighborhood is like this. And like, I'm not even kidding. Like it's fucking steep. And so the beginning of the walk is always a big downhill. It's probably about a mile, maybe a little bit more than a mile. And so the first part of the walk is downhill. And so I'll try jogging a little bit on the downhill until I'm just completely exhausted. And then as soon as it starts to go uphill, I'll run almost to the point that I'm about to throw up. And so, not that bad, but I had Teddy with me, and after I pushed it myself kind of hard, and I was at a point where like I was barely lifting up my feet for the rest of the walk home. You know, when like your legs are fucking jelly. And Teddy walked right in front of me, and both of my feet hit him, and I almost just went absolutely face first to the pavement. But I somehow caught myself and didn't. But there was just like this split second of like, you know, like when your legs are jelly like that, you can't like, and then you trip. It's not the same as when you trip when normally, you know, normally you can like catch yourself somewhat gracefully. This was not that at all. It was, yeah, it's interesting. Portal's End FPV says, do you ever mess with brushed motors? I did for my first 6 or so years in FPV. I was all over brushless motors. I tested them all, tried them all, had rigs on all the different ones. I was, same thing as now, trying to figure out what the absolute best combination was. When brushless Whoop motors came out, I didn't look back. If nothing else, the motor braking that we get from brushed motors is just enough of a reason to never run another brushed motor. Newbie Drone did make an AIO with an additional FET that would actually do braking on brushed motors. But like when you turtle mode them, it puts a lot of wear on the brushes. Are they also called commutators, maybe? The brushes are only meant to spin one direction, so when you spin them the opposite direction, it's really hard on them. They make so little power that a lot of times they actually won't turtle mode back over. They're very lazy. Like the armature in there is really heavy compared to the bell on these, and so yeah, once a year, once every other year, I'll be in a box here, and I'll stumble across an old brushed Tiny Whoop, and I'll throw a battery through it and go, wow, how the fuck did we fly these back? And then that's it, and then I'll put it away for another year or two. So yeah, the performance of them is just so much worse. Great for beginners though. If you're trying to get somebody into FPV, it's perfect, because who gives a shit? I mean, they're probably gonna lose it or destroy it anyway, and like perfect, get that shit out of here so that they can get onto a brushed setup, brushless setup, which does everything better. Hey Ryan, is your last name Sadat or Sadat? Ryan says, happy Wednesday. Thoughts on GemFan 1614 3-blade newer one versus 1610 versus HQ 40mm ultralight 3-blade. Holy shit. 3-blade versus 2-blade on a 75mm 1S somewhat lightweight build. That's probably like a 10-minute conversation, Ryan. I think we have a call scheduled tomorrow. Let's talk about that tomorrow, because it's a big conversation. FizzPV says, to stop the woodpeckers, they don't like it. Oh! No shit. How does that work? Would I put... So if there's the hole in the stucco here, let's say this is the hole in the stucco, would I put Hardy Backer on the inside, I guess? Why don't they like it? That's hysterical. Oh, I guess they don't like pecking it. There's something about it that they don't like pecking at it. Nyafu says, just got some RCN Power 1203 8000s on my SL2504 build. Bonkers motors. They have insane power and efficiency while weighing the same as most 1103 motors. I love them. Nice. Yeah, we'll see. When I put this setup into the Bando Turtle, I'm super curious. I would love to order a set of 1203s, but it's only a little bit of extra over these 1202 and a halves. I think I would rather jump all the way to the 1204. Matter of fact, I have a set of 1204 RCN power motors from forever ago on this toothpick that I'll never fix. And so, hold on, let me see what kV these are. If these are 8,000 kV, I'm taking these right the hell off of here. Yep, these are coming off. I've had this. So this is a Vista pick, Vista toothpick. And the AIO on here sucks. And this is the third AIO that I'd put in this that sucked. And I just gave up. and it's just been sitting for years like this. And that's stupid. This is a perfectly good set of motors. And so I'm going to yank these motors off. I'm actually going to start taking this apart now so that I don't forget. And I'm going to steal these motors off of here. And I'm never going to build this toothpick ever again. I will probably use this naked Vista, though, on something. A naked Vista is a nice thing to have. Oh my god, I've got this direct soldered. I really tried. I really wanted this thing to work. It would have probably worked if back when I built this, the AIOs were all just absolute trash, and so it was really difficult to. I mean, it was actually impossible to get this to fly right, and it was very demoralizing. But nowadays there are plenty of AIOs, so I could absolutely get an AIO onto this thing that would get it running right. But I'm not super into the toothpick thing. 3-inch propellers on something that's really, really, really lightweight is just not my deal. I don't like the way that flies. And then I don't like there being acres of prop in view. And a lot of times motor in view. So even if I had built this, I probably wouldn't fly it, which is kind of silly. So yeah, I'll rip this thing apart, throw this AIO in the effing river where it belongs, and at least be able to use these motors. But first, get this Vista out of here. Man, these naked Vistas are so sketchy. All the naked HD setups are just the creepiest shit ever. There's 1,000 components on the board. There's ribbon cables all over the place. It's just horrifying. Like the lengths that we go to save weight are just silly. And I try not to. Like I try not to fall victim to doing all the naked builds, but man, sometimes like it does, not sometimes. Well, yeah, I guess sometimes it's not that big of a weight savings. Sometimes it definitely is though. But boy, is it a sacrifice, right? You get like 0 durability. You've completely voided the warranty, so there isn't a shot in hell that you could get it repaired, right? You got to be super careful about them overheating because you've removed the case that typically has some sort of a heat sink in it or something like that. Or I mean, even just like having it in the case, even if there is not a heat sink, the case itself will act like a heat sink, right? By pulling the temperature away from the actual boards. It's it's just such a sacrifice to do it. I find it insane that people still do it, to be honest, especially with like how powerful some of the drivetrains are. But I mean, I get it. If like you're trying to build something that's sub 100 grams, or in some cases sub 250, and it's like got, you know, some big ass motors and a big battery, sometimes you kind of have to. But boy, oh boy, if you cannot do it, never ever ever do it. There are so many downsides. The biggest one being the complete and utter lack of durability. And like, you know, you're typically doing it on something that's HD, so it's something that is expensive. And so when it breaks, it's not like a $20 analog VTX, right? It's something that's got a lot more value. And that's rough. For me, at least. You know, so, some of these FPV folks seem to have an infinite amount of budget. And so for them, it's whatever. It's just, they just lose some time. Craig says, back in the day in the Bay Area, there was a radio station, Kome. They have sultry female voice. Not going to say that on a live stream, but I'm sure you guys can read it. Man, this is the way that I built this is kind of... I really went all out to get these wire lengths super short on this. Making it a real pain in the ass to take apart here. And I don't even know how I'm going to get a grip on this, because there's... How did I do this? I've got a nylock nut in here that's how I did it. Got it. Never mind. Really Good Bad Boy says, what range of ND filters do you use? All you need is ND 8 and 16. A 32 is kind of nice to have in case you ever fly in the snow, but that's really the only time that you'll use it, is in like direct sunlight with snow. I can't think of any other... I guess if you flew on like really clean concrete, you might need a 32. But I've never... I think I've only used a 32 once. I've never had to use a 64. I almost never have to use anything other than 8 and a 16. So you're pretty safe if you just get those. Oh my god, this is absurd. How the hell? No wonder why I got so demoralized when the AIOs kept dying on this. I did this build in a way that's kind of stupid. I shouldn't have used Nile. Oh, that's the answer. Never mind. I just had to rotate I just had to be a somewhat rational thinking human being for a second, which is sometimes tough. Getting tougher by the day. Mo Penguin says, you're an incredible human. Thank you, dude. Capital C says, I've been experimenting with getting the 04 gyro flow issue with my Caillou Mini. I've been raising the feed forward to 1.5 and adding more filtering seems to help the gyro to react less. That's super weird. Feed forward shouldn't have anything to do with anything. Feed forward is going to push harder earlier or less early when you move the sticks. The issues that we're having with gyro flow are vibrations related, and vibrations don't have anything to do with feed forward. So I think you're making filtering changes and feed forward changes at the same time, and the filtering changes are what's doing something. Which I can see that. So if you're adding filtering and it's helping, then you didn't have enough filtering to begin with, and it was nervous and it was kind of jittering. And so adding filtering is getting that under control and sort of smoothing things out. In the logs that I've gotten from my builds, I've actually been removing filtering with the help of Brandon's Baked Beans. The logs that I've been getting are incredibly clean, which is a good thing, because that sort of rules that out to being a part of the problem. I have apparently lost something that looks like this. Got it. I was going to say, it's not small, and it's got to be right in front of me. And then it fell down on the desk. Can I just yank this? I'm going to have to take this AIO all the way out to get the to the motor pads. I built this toothpick in a way that is extremely not serviceable, but absolutely as light as possible, like to a fault. I'm glad that I don't build like this anymore. I'm all about building with like short wire lengths, to get as much performance as possible, but the shit's got to be serviceable. Like, serviceability is really, really important, or you're never gonna fly it. And if you do fly it, you're gonna fly it really cautiously, because you know that it's a pain in the ass to work on. And so don't be like me. Build your shit when you're doing a build and when you're speccing everything out and you're figuring out which direction and how to run the wires and all that shit. In my opinion, make sure that the serviceability of the setup is pretty high up on your list of requirements when you're doing it. And think about that. Think about, like, when I have to take this apart, how am I gonna get to this bottom board? How much of a pain in the ass is it gonna be to get to this bottom board? And if the answer is yes, it's gonna be a pain in the ass, try to figure out a better way. It just sucks to have that build that's a nightmare to work on. So don't do that to yourself, because you won't have fun flying it. You'll fly it super careful, and that's silly. One of the greatest things about FPV is that you can smash into trees and walls and metal poles, and you don't die. And it's easy and cheap to repair. So take advantage of that. Crash a lot, friends. Crash more than you currently do. False positive. That's what I was looking for. I think you've got a false positive, capital C, on the feed forward having any effect. Unless you're trying to fix problems that happen when you do a stick input. I am not. I'm trying to fix the problems that happen when I move the throttle up and down with no roll, no pitch, no yaw. If you're trying to smooth gyro flow out, like when you move the sticks, if it's freaking out when you like bang a bunch of right roll or something like that, then lowering feed forward could help, because lowering the feed forward is gonna give less stick response. It's gonna smooth. If you jam the stick over like this, it's gonna smooth that out, and that seems to be what's we're looking for, as much smoothness as possible to get gyro flow going. But my issue so far is just straight up vibrations. It's just motor, propeller, frame resonance vibrations. When I get above, on the 2-inch build, it was when I got above 60% throttle. On the 2.5-inch so far, it's been when I get above like 40% throttle or even 30% throttle. Like, it's happening a lot more, which is very confusing. I would think that it would be a lot better on the 2.5-inch setup because it's turning a lot lower RPMs. But apparently the motor prop combo is making more vibrations earlier than the 2-inch setup. That's the only thing that makes any sense. And I can see that. I can see that. Like, the 6 or 7 different 2.5-inch props that I've tried are either not as well balanced as the T 2x2x3s, or they're vibrating at a frequency that gyro flow is struggling more with, that the gyro is struggling more with than the frequencies that the 2-inch setup is turning. So yeah, that's what's going on. I'm just going to keep testing shit. I forgot. So I put the HD setup into this Max Frames M2 frame. And this is actually going to be kind of interesting. So this frame has the carbon fiber oriented incorrectly, as far as I'm concerned. Meaning that the carbon fiber strands are going up, down, left, right. In my opinion, the correct way to orient carbon fiber is so that the strand, in my opinion and many others' opinions, I should say, the common opinion is that you want to orient it so that it goes the length of the arms. So if you're looking at the frame like this, and you have to tell whoever's cutting the carbon fiber for you specifically to do this, because you can fit more frames on a sheet if you do them like this. And the sheets typically have the carbon fiber going north, south, east, west. And so when you orient the frames on the sheet like this, you can put a lot of them on that sheet. When you orient them like that, you can put a lot less of them on the sheet. And so most carbon fiber cutters will, by default, orient it like this, unless you specifically tell them, hey, I need you to rotate it 45 degrees so that the carbon fiber travels the length of the arms. This frame has the carbon fiber north, south, east, west. And so what that gives us is very bendy arms. This Max Frames M2 is very durable. When you have these bendy arms, one thing that happens is when you crash it, the arms bend more than when the carbon fiber is going the length of the arm. And that will more slowly absorb the impact. If you hit this really hard, it'll bend the arm enough that it delaminates the carbon and it ruins the arm. With the baby turtle frames, for example, they have the carbon fiber traveling the length of the arms. These arms will be stronger. They will take a harder hit before they break, and they will resist vibrations better, which is why it's the right way of doing it. This frame having more bendy arms, maybe that'll help with this gyro flow issue. I'm actually really excited to see. And so this is what's getting tested tomorrow or the next day. If it stops raining, I'll do it tomorrow. If not, Friday, to see if this is any better. And then I'm going to pull the electronics package out of this, and it's going to go into the Bando Turtle 2.5-inch frame, and maybe I will then dive into these 1204s. But yeah, I'm super excited to check this out. If the bendy arms helps with gyro flow, then I'm just going to buy a couple of these frames. I don't care. The frame flies totally fine. I've had this built with analog. It flew great. It crashed great. It was totally fine. You know, sometimes like doing something the right way and then like having a couple of those benefits, if you're chasing something that's over here that's not those benefits and it makes this better, fuck those benefits, right? Like, yeah, okay, the frame is going to delaminate the arms earlier. So what? Buy a bunch of the frames and just swap them out. Who cares, right? Like, it's not like the frame is fine. It's been really strong. And so like basically what's happening with this M2 frame is that the arms are wide enough and thick enough that like even though the weave is not running the length of the arm, they're still strong enough. If I am actually gonna ask Max how many of these frames I would have to order. I'm basically gonna ask him how many of these frames are on a sheet. And I'm going to offer to order an entire sheet's worth of this frame with the carbon fiber going the length of the arms, because I want to know. And I'm pretty sure that a bunch of you guys would buy. I'm pretty sure that I could sell a bunch of those to you guys so that I'm not stuck with 20 of these frames, right? Because I obviously don't need 20, but I don't want him to have to cut a whole sheet of the. He doesn't want to do it because he's done all of the testing exactly like this is. And it's done great. And more power to him. I do not blame him a second for having that stance on it. But yeah, I'm willing to get a full sheet of them because I'm pretty sure that a bunch of you fuckers will buy them from my Etsy store so that I can just keep like 1 or 2 or 3. And then that'll be a part of this testing. Because that's, as we test more shit, like this issue is so confusing and it's so weird that like I just want to test as much stuff as I can, because that's how I think we're gonna figure this out. I don't know of a way of like, this problem is so weird that like I don't know of any other way to figure it out other than to just keep throwing shit at the wall and seeing what sticks, right? I think we're going to learn something, this frame versus the baby turtle frame, but the geometry is completely different. The arms are a little bit longer on this, and so it's not a fair fight. And so, like, if this does better, yeah, okay, maybe that's because the arms are more bendy. Maybe it's because the shape of the arms is different. Maybe it's because this frame is a gram heavier. Maybe it's because, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? And so if I can get this frame with the carbon fiber rotated 45 degrees and then head to head it, that's gonna tell me about the what is it about the resonance that I think the more bendy arms are going to lower the resonant frequencies because the arms are going to be able to move like this. I think the frequencies that the vibrations are happening are going to come down. And then the version of the frame with the carbon fiber running the length of the arms, those frequencies are going to shift up, which is going to make this situation better, right? Like with the 2.5-inch testing, all of a sudden I'm like, previously I thought that it was the higher frequencies that were the problem. Maybe not now, right? Because the 2.5-inch setup is lowering those frequencies for sure. Oh, I also forgot to mention that on the beginning of the live stream, one of those batteries was the 2.5-inch frame, the first battery, on 2-inch props. So I actually today tested 2-inch props, the same props that did really well on the 2-inch frame versus the 2.5-inch stuff. And very weirdly, the 2-inch on the 2.5-inch frame does not seem to help. It doesn't seem to be any better. So like here, I'll show you real quick. So Gep RC 1202.5s, 2.5-inch frame, T 2x2x3 propellers. That's this file, right? So the same propellers that. Oh, hold on. Here's our baseline. Hold on. 2-inch prop motor testing. So here's our baseline. T 2x2x3. Okay. So baseline is right here. This is the 2-inch frame with the 2x2x3s and the Beta FPV 1103 motors, which are another set of fresh motors that are vibration free, blah, 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 blah. And so this is the best results that I've gotten so far. It's always going to happen on a full throttle hit. But what I want you to notice is how late in this full throttle hit it starts to shake. Full throttle. Now, it only starts shaking after like a quarter of a second, a half of a second. And now watch me fly around and watch how infrequently it happens. It's going to happen every single time I stab full throttle. But the majority of this flight footage is smooth and clean. Right? Like most of this looks totally fine. Right? Look at all this. You can see every time I go full throttle, it shakes really violently. But look at all this. Look how clean all of this is, right? Watch this weird shit. This has me even more confused. I was hoping this would actually help, but this has me even more confused, if I'm totally honest with you. So here's those same props, admittedly different motors, 1202.5 motors now. But similar motors, brand new motors, no crashes on them, nice and clean. They spin beautifully. But a 2.5-inch frame. Ready? Here comes the full throttle hit, and it's just immediate. It's immediate. As soon as I stab the throttle, it starts shaking. And now watch me just kind of flying around. Hold on, let me move over here. It's doing it a lot, and I'm flying the same way. I'm trying. Well, towards the end of this battery. Here, towards the end of this battery, I specifically tried to not have... I tried to fly very low throttle to not have gyro flow freak out. And so this is me flying exactly like I just was. And so it's smooth here. I'm very low throttle, and it's smooth. But you're going to see it freak out more often. I watched it before the stream and I was like, wow, it's doing it all the time. But now it's actually kind of okay. There it did it once. There it did it again. There it does it. Yeah. So now it's getting bad. It was better on the it's better on the 2-inch frame, which is not totally. I get it. The 2-inch frame has really short little arms, so it's gonna have just no resonance. But yeah, the 2.5-inch frame did not do as good of a job on the same props. Again, just another data point for us. But yeah, now that I watch this again, this is actually decent. Ooh, it's bad there. As compared to, here are the cleanest 2.5-inch props that I've found. These are the T-Motor. Oh, Jesus Christ, T-Motor. Yeah, great. HQ T 2.5 by 1.9 by 3. And so there was that little bit of a gap on the beginning there where it didn't do it, but it came in pretty early. And so now we're just going to fly around at low throttle. And it's not bad, but this is me slowly increasing the throttle. Where's a little bit of like actual just flying around? It's worse. I've watched these now, and it's worse. It's way worse with the 2.5-inch props than the 2-inch props, which I just don't get. Other than, I guess, the 2.5-inch. My only guess here is that the 2.5-inch props are generating more violent vibrations because the blades are heavier and longer, and so the these blades do flex for sure, and so I guess it must have something to do with that. It must, because yeah, this is definitely not as good as with the 2s. Very weird. Again, I'm trying to do something that shouldn't be possible. Everybody says you cannot hard mount an 04 Lite camera and then run it through GyroFlow and have it not be a disaster. But under 60% throttle on this 2-inch frame over here, it's damn good. And so maybe I just stumbled on, so far, the initial setup. Like other than the props, I did figure out that these HQ props are better than the Gem fans, but not by much. And so like the original setup that I just stumbled onto on this is the best setup that I've found, even after probably 20 hours of testing and another like 10 hours to go. But you know, sometimes that's just the way it goes. Sometimes the very first setup before you start testing is the best setup. It always feels very weird and very wrong when that happens, but you know, can't argue with putting these flight files into beta flight or into GyroFlow and just seeing which ones vibrate all over the goddamn place constantly versus which ones are like only vibrating at the top of the throttle, right? Like it kind of is what it is. And I've retested a bunch of this stuff, and when I retest it, it's right there on the money. So I don't think it's like, you know, when I put it together one way, there's one wire pushed up against this, and that's what's causing it. I don't think it's being caused by electrical issues. It's roughly the same across 4 or 5 different motors now. So that removes, like, yeah, it's we'll see. More testing. Try to get caught up on chat here. Hold on. Sporty says, I don't want to buy new motors. I have 1504s with 2300 kV. Jesus Christ. That's like a 5-inch kV. What the hell? If you have any idea what else to do with it. No, yeah, I mean, that low of a kV motor. Well, I guess you could probably get away with 5S if you did like a 5 or 6 or 8 bladed propeller. but then the propeller is going to be way too heavy for that size of a motor. So you kind of can't do that. Yeah, no, you're kind of stuck. I hate when they do the really low kV motors like this, because you're absolutely forced to when they do the low kV motors that aren't like a massively beefy stator, that you can, run a big ass heavy propeller on. But yeah, no, you're doing the right thing if that's the motors that are on it. Capital C says, I also noticed a gained improvement by going to a larger battery. Yes. Basically, more weight and latency, less gyro for cuts. Absolutely. A heavier battery will accomplish something called mass damping. When you add mass to something, any vibrations that are there lower in amplitude, because it is harder for whatever is causing the vibrations to move the extra mass. I have this electronics package set up on BT 3.0, and the heaviest BT 3.0 batteries are the Cinewhoop 2S 450s, which are also the battery that I want to run. I want the weight of this thing to be low. When I inevitably do a 2.5-inch setup with this, I will probably do it on an XT30 so that I can run bigger, heavier batteries. And then that makes sense. Like if you're going to fly it freestyle, you can fly it on the lighter weight batteries. You don't run that through GyroFlow. If you want to fly it cinematic, you put a big fat ass battery on there and you get the extra runtime as well, right? So yeah, XT30 coming to the next build. Portals End FPV says, do you know of any boards out there? I can't find shit. It changes like every couple days. So yeah, I mean, I have not looked for boards in the last couple of days. So yeah, I'm of no help. Sorry, dude. On my Patreon, in the Patreon only section, on my Discord rather, in the Patreon section, so it'll cost you $3 whole to get in there. I have a text channel called All FPV Retailers, and in All FPV Retailers are pretty much all the FPV retailers. So you can go through there and just open up all these retailers in tabs, and then just go to every single website and see if they have anything in stock. Uriel says, but when you fall, the dog always lices your face full mercy. It happens to me too. See you. I'm going to crash. Bye, peeps. Thanks for hanging, Uriel. FizzPV says, best way is to trim the house with it. It can be painted like normal, and it's a concrete-based product. Oh, man, I wish. We have, the top of the house has, like, three-dimensionality to it. So I wouldn't be able to do that. I would have to, like, put it on the inside, I guess. FizzPV says we have huge woodpeckers here. They are sons of bitches. I love birds, but woodpeckers can fuck right off. Capital C says, I built that same naked toothpick with a Beta FPV board I tore out of the Pavo Pico. Nice. It was fun for a minute. I took the Naked Vista out and threw it into a Quad Mula Siren 3-inch. That was a good combination. Nice. Drone Daddy says, hey, brother, I put on some newbie drone Flow 1202 11,420s to replace my Robo 1003s. Do you use Black Explorer to tune or PID Toolbox? I can't seem to get either tune right for either motor. I use neither. I tune by ear and by motor heat and by the way that the thing feels. I use Black Box to find problems, to find vibrations, to find stuff like that. I can't help much without knowing like the rest of the combo, like what frame, what kind of everything, to be honest, what voltage, all that stuff. Yeah, if you wanted to dive into it, we could probably get through a troubleshoot like that in a half an hour session over on my Fiverr, or you can just message me and we'll schedule it and then you can PayPal me. It's $40 for a half an hour session, $60 for an hour. Yeah, we could probably get there in a half an hour. But yeah, I would need to know like the whole build, and we need to go back and forth, and you need to try some shit, and you know, it's a process. But yeah, I can absolutely do that if you'd like, but yeah, there'd be no way to troubleshoot that through a live stream. And there's also no way to troubleshoot that on Facebook groups or with AI or on Reddit. So don't go to those places and ask questions. The answers that you're going to get are going to cause more issues than they solve. Nobody knows anything in those places, and AI just closes its eyes and points. And, you know, just if you're going to do that, just close your own eyes and point. Just randomly pick something to change it, and see if it makes it better or worse. That's what AI is going to do. It's totally worthless for troubleshooting this stuff. People think that it works because it gets them to change stuff, and then they change stuff one way, and then they change stuff the other way, and it's better one way than the other. Just do that yourself, you know? Just like, you know, don't use AI in general. It's bad for everything, and it'll be the death of us. Mark my words. It will be the death of humanity as we know it. Nyafu says, when it comes to frames, we got a lot of sheet to think about. Indeed. Striker says, just got new Blackbird V4 Menace Edition in. I don't even know what that is. Insane power, unlike anything ever tried. Oh, they're motors. Jesus Christ. 2307. 2060 kV. That's ridiculous. That's a... that is a 0 throttle resolution motor right there. Mo Penguin says, I'm really excited for the M2 frame test. I got an M2 and an 04 air unit, dying to get it into something. Nice. Hey, Ryan says, the Baby Turtle V7 is a 2-inch prop. It can be. You can get it in 1.6, 1.8, or 2-inch. I think they shipped me a 45 millimeter somehow. No shot a 2-inch prop fits on mine. Also time to update the test shit fund. Guy might paid. Yeah, you're right. YouTube just did the thing again. Hang on. There we go. Yeah, get in touch with them. I'm sure they'll ship you the right thing. CiottiFPV tagged me, but for some reason it didn't turn orange, and I have no idea why. You spelled it right. That's weird. That's weird that it didn't let it up in orange for me. Cole says, get frames cut. If they're great, keep them all. If they suck, sell them to us rubes. Win-win. Smile says, can you see which frequencies the gyro has recorded? Yes. When you put black box log files into Black Box Explorer, it shows you all of the frequencies that have been recorded. Where was I here? Yuke says, Star Fox 64, oh, I fucking love that game, is getting a remake, and I'm stoked. Nice. There was supposed to be a Star Fox 2 that got canceled way back when, which was heartbreaking. Yeah, Star Fox 64 is one of my favorite games of all time. Capital C says, if the 04 gyro is reacting to the vibrations caused by the props, would the AVAN props maybe work better because they're so stiff? I may try that tomorrow. Maybe. The problem with the AVAN props is they're way too heavy. And so the response time is going to suck. And it's not going to fly very good, unfortunately. But yeah, you never know. They could help. I didn't bother testing them because they're almost twice as heavy as the props that actually fly good. They do seem to be very well balanced, though. So yeah, that's interesting. I'm gonna grab them and I'll test them. Where are they? Is this them? Hey. There they are. Oh, balls. Those are the 2.5s. There they are. Yeah, I didn't test them, which is kind of silly because they are very well balanced and they are hideously stiff. Most durable 2-inch and 2.5-inch props by a long margin. Jimmy the Cow says, moo again? Striker says, 2300 kV, 1504, hear me out, 3.5-inch 8S. No. There's no reason to do anything more than 4S on 3-inch or 3.5-inch. you're just going to blow up ESCs. And there are actually downsides to running too high of a voltage outside of your ESCs constantly catching fire. Cole says low KV motor only options are higher cell count and steeper pitch prop. Indeed. Kevin Sumner's in the house. FizzPV says look up the ivory bill woodpecker. Is it a big bastard? Striker says I want to ask a lot of questions regarding Cine. Is DJI necessary or can I stick to analog? You can stick to analog. What action cam? There's not an answer for that. It depends on your budget. It depends on, yeah, it's build plans, etc. Will a 30 min be enough? I don't know what a 30 min is. Yuke says, I'm hoping this leads to a sequel. That would be cool. Nyafu says, have you tried the BT 3.0 swap on XT30 batteries? Not yet. No. The 300 and 450 MAH2Ss from Cinewhoop perform really well. And if I want any more MAH than that, the extra weight of XT30 doesn't really matter anymore because the battery's getting so heavy. And so, yeah. BT 3.0 is a little bit annoying, to be really honest. And so I only use it on the rigs that, like, the little bit of weight savings, the like, maybe 2, maybe 3 grams of weight savings are actually going to matter. And those are rigs that are going to be running smaller batteries, right? But yeah, it is it is not easy to it's not very difficult to do. You can just clip the main battery leads and then just solder the thing right up to the 3 balance leads, and that's pretty much it. You got to make sure that those 2 main leads that you clip don't touch each other, obviously. But yeah, it's not a hard thing to do. Nyafu says we should build a 12S 3-inch toothpick with a Cinelifter ESC. Fizz says 20 inches tall. What? With almost a 3-foot wingspan. Jesus Christ. Cole says for Cine Action Cam, the answer is red Komodo. Could be. Depends. Striker says, I was just asking since I have a lot of specific questions for said questions regarding cinematic. Would a 30-minute Fiverr session thing be enough? Maybe. It depends. I mean, like, if somebody does a 30-minute session, like, one of the first things I talk about is like, hey, like, you know, how many questions do you have to like at least get in the ballpark? At the end of 30 minutes, like, if we're out of time, we're out of time, right? Like, if that person doesn't want to do the extra $20, it's all good. In 30 minutes, I dump a ton of fucking knowledge on people. But yeah, and like, if we go over by 5 minutes, I never care. But yeah, it depends. It depends on how deep down the rabbit hole you want to go with the answers to the questions. If you send me like a list of questions, I'll have a better idea. I'll be able to say, like, yeah, we can get through these in 30 minutes. If like the answers that I give you don't spawn a bunch of additional questions, or there's absolutely no way. Ryan Sadat actually, before our first phone call, I've had a couple phone calls with him now. Before our first phone call, he sent me a list of things that he wanted to talk about, and I replied back. I was like, yo, that's like, that list is like 3 or 4 hour long calls, just so you know. So yeah, if you have a list of questions, you can send them and I'll give you an idea. Or we can just dive in and you just, ask the most important questions first. We get through what we get through. Yuke says, I think he was asking if a 30-minute session will be enough. Yep. You guys are, my brain is mush. Jimmy the Cow says, my girlfriend has been watching the whole time and now demands a teddy check. Please and thank you. Moo. Just dead to the world. Oh. He heard me. He strangely woke up when I said dead, and that was weird. Here's something. Do I still have it open? Where you at, Premiere? Here you go. Oh, fuck you. Why would that be offline? Whatever. Hopefully that doesn't grenade the thing. I'm doing a Teddy birthday edit.
It's my birthday. It's my birthday.
No. Okay, good. Can't let the music play, but yeah, this is Teddy's 4th birthday at the park, and I'm doing a quick little edit. Well, no edits are quick or little with me, but I'm trying to keep it as quick and little as possible. Look at that snap from full speed to 25% speed. Oh my god. So good. Look at this goddamn dog, man. Look at this dog's stupid new method of carrying a tennis ball in the side of his mouth so he can leave his tongue hanging out the bottom of it. And so he can carry one tennis ball when he chases to get the other one that just got thrown. What a greedy little obnoxious pig. It's a birthday song, too, to make it just that much more hysterical. This is now unedited. The first, like, 30 seconds are actually somewhat edited, although I'll probably change it 14 times. Yeah, some of this stuff is slowed down, some of it is not. Pretty much all of it will be. There's the glorious fluff. So yeah, it's just totally, like, uncut beyond that. But there you go. There's some Teddy lovin'. There'll be some 4K Teddy lovin' soon enough. Portal's End says, could some cinematic shots be... could you get some cinematic shots with onboard analog and DVR, respectively, new to Cinewhoops? I got in when Silverware was dropping. It depends. If you have a client where they're doing an entire edit with old school, like, high 8 or mini DV cameras where they've got that, like... So, here's an example. Come on, internet. Jesus. If we come in here to FPV edits and we go back in time a little bit, I've got, I think this is one of them. No. Here's the good one. Analog FPV. No. Analog FPV is a time machine to the 90s. So this, for example, I shot this, all of these stills on a 15-year-old mini DV cam. And so when your static camera footage looks like this, and then you snap to analog DVR, it makes sense. If all of your other footage is on modern cameras and you snap into analog footage, you gotta, like, sell it. It's you gotta do it in a way that makes sense. You gotta like point the static camera at, like, a surveillance camera, and then when you cut, what you're saying is, hey, I'm cutting to the shitty footage from this surveillance camera, right? FPV footage wouldn't make a whole lot of sense in that case, but, like, you have to like sell it, basically, right? Like, analog DVR footage looks so horrible that there has to be a reason. You have to tell your viewer, like, why it looks like that. Otherwise, they're literally going to ask you, why does it look like that? Like, when if I ever play analog Cinewhoop flight footage for, like, a paying client, like, just on my phone or something, they will always ask, why does it look like that? Why does it look so bad? Why is it flashing? Why is there weird shit going on, right? Because people don't expect that, right? They've not seen that. So you have to, like, sell it to be able to use, not sell it, like, from a money perspective, but, like, sell it from, like, I think you know what I'm saying. You have to explain to the viewer why the footage is about to look awful. That's what I'm trying to say. Typically, what we do with cinematic rigs that have analog on them, like this one, is we hang a GoPro off the top. So you can, you can always use analog for your FPV link, but then put a camera that actually records decent quality on top. Nathan Wells says, reminder, cut your battery wires one at a time. Yes. I know, but have done it anyway. Yes. never cut both battery wires at once. Even if the battery is like dead, it's still going to have some voltage and scare the shit out of you and possibly shock the shit out of you. Yuke says, I've been using M2x10 screws on my indestructible 65mm build, and I feel like it's helping a lot. Nice. Yeah, longer screws down through the canopy is a definite trick to stop breaking the posts off of the Whoop frames. Apache Smoke Wounded Snipers in the house. What's up, brother? He says, good morning, bro, and gangly gang. Still testing the T-Hybrid 2S AIO. One failed, and the others are going strong. Why did the one fail? Did it fail when you were flying it, or did it just like fail out of the box, or what? What happened there? That's a little scary. That's a bad failure rate, unfortunately. I like if it's happened to me a couple times where like a company sends me two of something and one of them fails. I'm like, that's not very good. That's 50% failure rate. Like, hopefully I just happened to get one of the bad ones, but maybe not. Vessel says, I've recently thought about how perfect analog would be for promoting punk shows. Think it would definitely gain some attention. Maybe. My recommendation is going to be to edit it in with DV cam stuff. Like you if it's just analog FPV flight footage, it just, people tend to just be like, what the fuck is this? Because like normies have a hard time watching FPV footage at all, right? Because there's too much shit going on. The horizon's rocking all over the place. Like it's just nothing they've ever seen. And like, unless you're a really, really good pilot, it's a lot of times nothing that they want to see. And so, but mixing it in with old school handycam footage, which you can get now for like no money on eBay, right? That's pretty cool. And that's been done a couple times really successfully now. So yeah, that would be my recommendation, because literally people will ask, why does it look like that? And if that's what's in their head, if what's in their head is why does it look like this, they're not actually watching it. They're trying to figure out why it looks so bad, and they're not paying any attention to what you're actually filming. And that's the whole point of filming things, right? So yeah, in my opinion, you gotta like lead them into it. You gotta give them at least a couple seconds of shitty handy. And I guess you could probably do cell phone footage and then run it through some kind of a filter to make it look like old school 80s, 90s. And that would probably be close enough. But you gotta, in my opinion, you have to like base it in reality. You have to give a reason why they're about to have a whole bunch of, A, the quality is going to look like shit, but B, there's going to be a bunch of shit and tears on the screen, flashing, and all the garbage that we get from DVR. Look at that TP3 frame. Jesus hellballs. Crazy. Oh, I was going to work on the Cinesplorer, wasn't I? It's 11:59. Instead, I tore apart a toothpick, and we talked about 2-inch props on a 2.5-inch frame. Nyafu says, Cole FPV, I suggest we put 3S on the 65mm whoops and connect them all to a car battery. There we go. With an HDLRC BEC. Apache Smoke says, crashed it hard. Okay, and one ESC went out. Okay, fair enough. That's fine. On a really hard crash, it's unbelievable that anything ever survives. So, like, yeah, anything electronics dying, anything that we build into these quads dying on a hard crash, I'm totally fine with. Fizz says, shock the shit out of you. It's not that bad. Try a 50,000 volt neon transformer. Taser on steroids. Yeah. Neon transformers are scary, scary, scary stuff. Cole says, Sporty and I have come up with a foolproof plan to carry a cinema camera like the house. Oh, like the house from up and steer it with 65 millimeter tiny whoops. Yeah, with enough of them. Have to be line of sight though. Wouldn't have enough FPV channels. Nyafu once cut both wires and spot welded my wire cutters. LOL. Took the thing out back and shot it with my air gun. Great target practice. So they make cool sparks and fire. Vessel says, oh no, we got that. All right, so I am caught up. One of my MIP drivers. Is it the 2? Yeah, it's the 2. One of my MIP drivers once shorted a battery, and it did quite the number on the tip of the MIP. And I actually, because these drivers are so expensive, I never replaced it. I just filed it down, and it's kind of fine. But yeah, that was from, I forget what happened. It was like on the desk, and it like rotated, and it like jabbed itself. It actually happened during a live stream way, way, way back when I was still living in the apartment. You won't be able to find it. But yeah, scary shit. Yukon FPV says, did you see all the new FAA stuff? I didn't. What the hell now? Sporty says, what do you think of a drone on a power cord that you can plug into your outlet for infinite flying? What could go wrong? Mike K says, are you going to I.O. this year? No, I will probably never go to I.O., to be totally honest. It just doesn't have enough freestyle stuff at it. And I can't really afford to travel much, to be quite honest. And so, like, you know, Castle Crash is close enough that I'll probably go to that every year. But like anything that I have to fly, like if I have to pay for a flight, it's probably going to be like with the family or like a freestyle specific event. But I haven't really been able to afford that quite yet. Someday maybe. Although not the way things are going. With Agent Orange and his band of Nazis. But I digress. Let's at least solder some motors up. Jesus. I can't believe how late it got. Actually, I can totally believe how late it got. All right. So, this is the V2 Cinesplorer, and I previously figured out how I was going to mount, how and where I was going to mount the flight controller, which is up front, and then the Vista is going to go back here. You can tell this is a very symmetrical frame, but you can tell the front because it's got these little slots for the camera cage to go on. And yeah, I cut these wires to length, but then I didn't solder them down, so let's do that. Let's get a little bit of work done on this V2 Cinesplorer. Mike K says, have you been to Rampage? Rotor Riot paid me to set up the Micro Mayhem area in Rampage the first 3 years that they had Rampage, and then last year they did not. But last year I don't think I would have accepted it, because by last year all of the Rotor Riot War Crimes shit was so bad that just from a moral standpoint, I can't support them, and so yeah, I won't be going anymore. But they didn't, and I don't hide that, and I'm assuming that they heard about that, and that's why they didn't invite me back, because I always did a really great job, and they were always very happy with me. Actually, come to think of it, they paid me the first 2 years, but then the third year, they didn't pay me to do it. But it was fine, because I got to go. Otherwise, I wouldn't have gotten to go, because I can't afford that shit. Yeah, it's interesting. Rampage is it's a lot. I don't know. It's a shame it's run by Rotor Riot, and it's boy is it expensive. I don't know. I what I used to say is like everybody should go once, but I don't know about that anymore. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Okay, let's get a couple motors soldered down here. Soldering iron is at 700 degrees Fahrenheit. As always, I'll be using my 3.5x magnification Yakto headset so that I can actually do good quality work. Even though this isn't like a Cinewhoop or infinitely small, being able to have 3.5x magnification hanging off your forehead makes a massive difference in the quality of the work that you can do. It looks like I've stripped these motor wires, but I didn't tin them. Boy, the pads are itty bitty on this guy. Trying to figure out if I want to do this while it's in here. Yeah, I'm going to try to leave it in the frame like this. Come at an angle like that. Yeah, this should be okay. This should be all right. And so all these wires are going to go in the rearward direction, which is going to be interesting. I changed my mind. I'm going to do this outside of the frame. I like to bolt the motors on like this, in order to figure out the wire lengths and get them perfect. I just realized I gotta pay attention to which direction I want the battery leads to go. And I've been doing battery leads out the front a lot lately, and then I run the wire sideways, and then the plug tucks in behind. So yeah, that's what I'm going to do this time. Okay, so I'm going to put this like this, and then I run the motors like that. And so Yafu says, any interest in coming to Japan for vacation with the family? All the people I know who've come here on vacation have loved it. We would all absolutely love that, but financially we wouldn't really be able to do that. Four flights round trip to Japan tickets is, yeah, we're doing we are doing very low cost vacations. It's yeah, it's getting bad here in the US. The cost of living is just getting so worse and worse and worse. It's absolutely brutal. It's a shame. It is a shame. The middle class is really taking the brunt of the damage that these maniacs are doing. And yeah, I don't know. We got a long ways to go. Unbelievable that there's 2.5 years of this absolute fascism left. Scary. But, you know, we had a good run. I feel really bad for the young folks, you know, who the rest of their lives are just going to be a nightmare, and or they're not going to get to see, you know, their 21st birthdays. Realistically, the way things that are really going right now, you know. So, all right. So what I'm doing here is I'm pulling back the silicone shielding on these wires just to get as much of the individual strands exposed as possible. And then what I'm going to do is just hang these off the side. Well, no, let's use this OmniFixo. All right, so there we go. So I just like to float the wires like this so that I can bring the soldering iron tip up from the bottom and add the solder in from the top. And if you really want to do a good job tinning wires, use flux. Just take your flux syringe, put a little bit of flux on the tips of the wires. There is flux inside of solder. The core of the solder has flux in it. But if you add a little bit extra, you almost always get better results, especially if you're new to soldering. I've been soldering for a decade, and so I can get away without doing that. And so what I'm going to do first is put a little bit of solder on the tip of the iron. It's called tinning the tip of the iron. And then I'm going to hold it below the wire and push the solder through the individual strands of wire. As long as you have smoke, you have flux. If you no longer have smoke, all of the flux has burned off. And that's all there is to it. Just make sure that that went all the way through. Yeah, we're good. All right, so now this is a silicone work mat. I love this because stuff doesn't move. I'm pushing this sideways and it barely moves. It has a nice grip to it. And so you can actually solder right on top of it, and it usually works pretty well. Let's give it a shot. So next thing we're going to do is tin the pads on the ESC, and this is when I absolutely do add a little bit of flux here. Pretty much always, just a tiny little bit. And so when you're tinning a pad, you want to put the tip of the soldering iron on half of the pad and then push solder into the other part of the pad. The tip of the soldering iron's job is to heat the pad itself up. And then if you push solder onto the pad itself and it doesn't melt, the pad's not hot enough. And you want to know that. You want to make sure that the pads are always hot enough. I'm going to do the whole board, actually, just to get it out of the way. Okay. All right. This will make me feel like I did a little bit of extra work. All right. Battery pads are always going to take a little bit longer. The ground pad is always going to take the longest. There is an entire layer in these PCBs that the ground pad is jacked into. And so as soon as you put that soldering iron tip down on any ground pad, it's going to absorb the heat and spread it out through the entire ESC. One of the jobs of the ESC is to be a heat sink. And so it should always be harder to solder to the negative pad. If it's not, the ESC is not going to be a very good heat sink and it's going to overheat. So it's actually a good thing. Like when you're cursing at the negative battery pad, think about that. Think about the fact that the more annoying it is to work on, the better it's going to perform. Make sense? And now you want to check your work and just look for solder balls. Your best way of doing that is with a 5X loop. This is really where you're going to see detail. These 3.5X, the 3.5X headset that I have on is pretty good, but that loop does a much better job. We're looking good. While I'm soldering, I'm always checking for solder balls. All right, and so these wires are going in this direction. So when you're about to work and connect wires to a PCB, you want to move the work to you. Don't just leave it like this and have your hands be all fucked up. Move the work in a way that you can bring the soldering iron in comfortably, and you can use tweezers comfortably to hold the wire. And so your offhand's job is to use tweezers or finger hold the wires, but you're going to burn your fingers doing that, so typically use these. And then your strong hand's job is to bring heat in with the soldering iron. The soldering iron is not there to hold the wires. It's not there to move the wires. It's there to bring heat in. If you're doing anything other than bringing heat in with it, you're doing it wrong. And the quality of your work is going to suffer. And so what we're going to do is this wire first, then this wire, then this wire. And then we'll move on to these, which is kind of silly. I should do these back here first, but there's enough of a gap between these where we'll be okay. when you're soldering a wire to a board, you want to try to keep that wire as flat to the board as possible. And so with the amount of insulation on here, the most angle that I can really do is going to be like that. And so again, I'm moving the work to me so that I can comfortably hold these wires and bring the tip of the soldering iron in. You should spend all of your time screwing around like this so that you can hold the wires perfectly. You should not spend your time with the soldering iron on the pad dumping heat into the ESC. That's how you F up an ESC, by dumping a bunch of heat into it. There we go. That looks pretty good. After you pull the soldering iron away, just freeze. Don't move, don't blow on it, just wait and stay as still as you possibly can. Okay. I'm going to explain what I mean by wire flat to the pad in a second. And I'm going to explain why as well. All right. So, wire flat to the pad is this. If this wire gets pulled, the pads, you got your ESC. All those little pads are just glued on. And so if you pull straight up on that pad, or if you peel that pad, it'll come right the hell off. So if this is your pad and this is your wire, you want that wire totally flat so that if this wire gets pulled, it's going to try to pull the entire pad laterally. And that's the way the pad is going to be the strongest. If your wire is up like this and it gets pulled, it's going to peel that pad right off. No problem whatsoever. So you always want to get these wires as flat as you possibly can. Bonus points if you can get the silicone to layer over the side like what you're seeing here. Because by doing this, the individual strands of wire are sitting absolutely as flat as possible, and there's no gap. When there's a gap between the solder joint and then there's a bunch of exposed multi-stranded wire and then the silicone, what's going to happen is that gap with the exposed strands of wire is where it's going to bend. And it's going to bend there and bend and bend, and it's going to break 1 and break 2 and break 3 and 4 and 5, and then it's going to break right there. So if you get the silicone butted up against the PCB, the silicone is going to bend. And instead of it just picking that one spot and bending in that one spot, the whole silicone is going to bend. And so instead of like this, it's going to bend like this. It's not going to bend at like a right angle. It's going to bend with the silicone, and the wires will break much more slowly. They will always eventually break if you keep hammering on them. On a Cinewhoop like this, probably never. But on like a freestyle rig that you're breaking arms and smashing into stuff, the wires are eventually going to break. This is the absolute best way to make it last the longest. We'll do one more, and then we'll go to sleep. Unless you're on the West Coast, you'll hang out for a while. Spritty says decided to build a 4-inch 2-blade mover toothpick with the Chaser camera pod. That sounds pretty cool. 4-inch will be interesting. Four-inch could be really good for carrying around a one of those DJI Osmos. Boy, are they expensive though! Holy shit, those DJI Osmos cost a fucking fortune. They're like $400. Okay. If anybody ever wonders what that noise is, that's how I scratch my throat, basically. Like when I'm having allergy issues, which is pretty much always. Um, I don't know. I like push my tongue against the top of the roof of my mouth, and then like I don't know how I do it, but that's what I'm doing. I'm scratching my my allergy itchies. The old allergy itchies. My allergies have been way better this year than previous years, but there's only so much that I can take. And I'm trying to go on walks every day, and so I get exposed to a shitload of pollen and whatnot when I go on said walks. There's not quite enough exposed wire here, so I'm just going to use my fingernails to chop off a tiny little bit more of the silicon. Your fingernails are a great way to strip wires because your fingernails are not harder than the material that the wires are made of. So you will never weaken a wire if you use your fingernails. Fucking A. If you use your fingernails to strip the wire. It's the safest way to strip wires. It does flatten the strands of wires out a little bit, but then you can just do this and round them back out, and all's right with the world. All right, that's looking better. Now let's throw it back in here. All right, so again, soldering iron below the wire, and then you're going to push solder in from the top. You're trying to push solder in between the individual strands of wire, is basically what's going on here. All right. And tin the tip of the soldering iron before you bring it up to the wire. That'll get you a bigger contact patch. Like the little blob of solder on the tip of the iron will, it's metal, right? So it'll transfer heat. It'll like wrap around the wire and transfer heat a lot faster than just the bare tip of the soldering iron against the rounded wire, right? Like this is a shitty contact patch. A lot of soldering is contact patch. How big of a contact patch can you get between the tip of the iron and the work that you're doing? The bigger the contact patch, the more the contact patch, the quicker the heat is going to transfer, and that's a big deal. You want to transfer heat as quickly as possible and get off of that pad as quickly as possible. Every little bit of heat that you transfer into this ESC hurts it a little bit, is a way to think about it. Now, of course, once we hook a battery up and start blasting big motors, yeah, okay, that's going to put a bunch of heat into it too. But, you know, we're trying to put as little heat as possible. And the heat that we put into these things with the soldering iron on the pads is a different kind of heat than when these things are operating, basically. All right. The tip of the soldering iron is not tinned right now, and so it took a little bit of extra time to transfer the heat, but it eventually did. And now that I did one wire, the tip is tinned because solder travels towards the heat. And so after you do the first pad, there's going to be the tip of the soldering iron is hotter, and so it's going to pick up a little bit of the solder after you do that first pad. So when I'm being lazy, I'll just not tin the tip of the soldering iron, do the first pad, and now it's tinned for the rest. And so now this second one happens a lot faster. It's one of the cool things about solder is that it travels towards the heat. It's also one of the annoying things about solder. All right, I'm going to move the work a little bit. Yeah, that's better. Because I got like this wire next to that wire next to that wire. I should have done this motor first. See how the ESC is moving? This is super annoying. What I should do is put masking tape over the ESC to prevent that. Hold it down. It'll also, if there's a little solder ball, it'll the masking tape will catch it. But instead, I'll be stubborn. But luckily, I've done this so much that I can be stubborn and still get really good quality work. But it would have been way better to put one single piece of masking tape over this to hold it down, hold it in place, and protect it from balls of solder. So there we go. So that's going to sit in there like that. Now we get to see if I cut these wires too short. Nope. Perfect. A little bit extra. And then what about this one? Yep. Let's see if I gave myself enough to run it in between these two standoffs here. Nah, I didn't quite. That's all right, though. I wouldn't really want to do that. Well, these might be a little bit too long. What did I do here? Why did I make these so long? Did I set them up? No. Did I? No, there's no way. That one's way too short. Weird. Why did I cut these so long? Where's all this extra wire going to go? I guess it can go like that. Oh, I know what I did. I set it up to run these down below, I think. Let's see. I think I set it up for these wires to tuck under like that. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense. Like, yeah. So if I pull this out a little bit, get this motor where it's going to be, there it's going to live. Yeah, okay. There it is. Yeah. That's what I was thinking. Yeah, nice and tidy down there like that. And then this guy hangs out here. And that's a good looking Cinewhoop. Yeah, so these will get like taped down here, basically. And then we got a nice little extra loop. Oh, you know what I did? That's what I did. I bet you I set it up to run in between these standoffs. Yeah, there it is. So there we go. That's what. Now I just have to do the other side, obviously. But yeah, that's what the Cinesplorer V2 is going to look like. Look how thick these. Look how thick these arms are. I think that's 6 millimeter thick. This frame apparently has like 0. It's funny, the Cinesplorer 1, the only dig on the frame is that the arms are really thin. The arms are 3 millimeters. And so there's some resonance issues. You can't like really crank the PID tune up. On this one, Bob went ass opposite and made it like ridiculously stiff. It's a little bit heavier. But yeah, I'll be able to crank the PID tune through the roof on this, which will be interesting. CiottiFPV says, don't listen to the FAA. Ignorance is absolutely a defense in court. Vacation fund. Yeah, right. $4,000 vacation fund. Sporty says, I decided to... Oh, we got that. Ryan says, you think you will explore 1.6, 1.8 inch open prop 04. Definitely not. 2 inches the way to go. Open prop builds are going to get crashed hard. And smaller than 2-inch props, you're going to have to run a motor with a 1.5 millimeter motor shaft, and it's just not going to hold up. Also, there are no good 1.6, 1.8 inch props that are actually even remotely durable. So, not something I'm interested in. Maybe the vibration frequencies will cause less gyroflow problems. Another few decent frames like the Bandit Turtle 1.8. Yeah, no, the problem is motors and props. There just aren't good ones. Ryan also says, also one thing we haven't tried is a top camera pod with a bottom slung battery like some Cinewhoops. CG more spread out, but maybe easier stabilization. That tends to make the build a lot heavier and a lot louder. That's why I've never really been interested in any of that. The like beta FPV Pavo style build is that like the flight characteristics kind of suck. They're pretty heavy. aerodynamically they're a bit of a mess. And so yeah, they're just not really good to fly. They fly like an itty bitty Cinewhoop, but like with an incredibly shrill tone to them, which like that's what I'm trying to get away from, right? Like we're trying to have something that's really, really quiet, that people will smile when we fly, rather than people hating you more than they already do by the fact that you have anything to do with drones, right? So yeah. And then like the other, you know, the other thing, right, is like, well, what if we mount a camera on top here? Well, then you've got a bunch of shit in view, right? Which won't really work. So yeah, it's what we're trying to do is tough. It's tough for sure. At some point here, I might actually snag the new Flywoo 2-inch, maybe even 2.5-inch frame on the stupid 4S 2-inch build that they've got, because it has a really cool vibration damping system in the front that uses those rubber bobbin bastards. But that frame looks awful heavy. And that, again, brings the noise level up quite a bit, and we got to run big ass motors and all that. So yeah, CiottiFPV says, did that 3D print finish? The Propodials did, but I didn't start running the other files because the 3D printer is really loud for people that wear headphones. Last comment of the live stream is Sporny. He says, Itzy Evo is still the best. We'll defend that fact as long as I live. Yeah, I might actually... Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. If there is a good 3D print to make that prop guard, which is actually more like a fucking knife to razor someone's face in half, if there's a good 3D print to round that out so that the thing is actually safe to fly around people, I might go down that road. But I've always stayed away from it because I would rather fly an open prop rig. Like I feel like an open prop rig would be safer to fly around than that thing with that absurdly thin and sharp guard on there, right? Thanks for hanging, friends. Sorry we didn't do more work on the Cinesplorer V2, but you guys had some really good questions, and you know the most value that I can offer is answering questions. So hope you enjoyed. Hope you learned something. CiottiFPV.com to support me. Click the thumbs up, subscribe, click the bell thing. All that shit helps YouTube. Not that they pay anything. These live streams are all non-monetized so that you don't have to watch commercials. But that means that you have to do something else, or else I won't be able to continue to do this. So Patreon's the best. Buy some stuff from my Etsy store. Schedule some one-on-one time with me through Fiverr, or just message me. All my contact info is on the website. There's a Teespring page where you can buy some fun apparel. And a ton of affiliate links on the website as well. If you're buying something on the internet, use an affiliate link. It doesn't affect you in any way, and it helps people that are doing cool shit to keep doing cool shit that you can then appreciate and live a better life. Be good, people. Here's the other two flight files that you didn't see at the beginning of the live stream. GEP-RC 2.5-inch baby turtle frame. GEP-RC 1202.5s. First one's going to be 2512 gem fan props. Second file is going to be 2520 gem fan props. And I'm going to play the goggle footage for you so you can see the amps drawn and all that fun shit. Love you guys. I'll see you Friday.
Yeah. Out in the yard where the grass grows wild, CiottiFPV's goggles locked, grinning like a child. Teddy spaghetti's, fur flies, and jet wash dreams. Yeah. Chasing small whoops like a dog possessed fiend. Eyes on a neon blur, hard in the chase. Big fuzz and prop spin, all tangled in place. Yeah. Four-legged rebel with a rotor stir tail in the circus of the sky. They never fail.
sticks, Teddy's on pause. Side by side, legends breaking all the laws. Through the kitchen, over couch, scale terrain. Backyard mayhem in their flight domain. No ground too sacred, no loop too tight. Fuzz, fuel, fury ignites the night. When pilot and pup lock eyes on the prize, every whoop they conquer is a fresh cut surprise. Yeah. Yo, Ciotti behind the sticks, Teddy's leading the pack. Prop guard missiles unleashed, never looking back. No leash, no map, just freestyle mic. They on the dog drone streets every day and night. Said whoops, hitting low, gotta nail the dive, Teddy. Push throttle up, feel the beast come alive. I see the neon arc, got the sticks locked in, Teddy. Yeah, let's rip this loop, ride the roar of the wind, Teddy. Yep. Yeah, CiottiFPV, Teddy's spaghetti, diamond and duo kings, barking at the breeze, crawling at top speed, zooming through hoops, flipping in style. That schnauzer's got throttle and a toothy smile. Teddy's spaghetti. Barking at the breeze, falling at top speed things, zooming through hoops, flipping in style. That schnauzer's got throttle and a toothy smile. Yeah, when you hear that bar cut the rotor hum, you know Ciotti and Teddy's mission's just begun. FPV's fur-faced legends, legends sing it loud. Yeah, Teddy's spaghetti and CiottiFPV always proud.